Hello everyone, I am Rupam, author of Intimacy Lost for Man, and in this episode I am going to walk you through understanding what is relationship. Now relationship is the way two objects interact following certain rules. Let me reiterate. Relationship is the way two objects interact following certain rules. What is an object? Object is a finite set that defines the properties of something which has got some properties and behaviors. An object is a thing. For example, mobile is an object. For example, book is an object. When you have book has a cover, book has table of content, it has chapters, chapters have paragraphs, and so on. And book provide you information, knowledge, wisdom, and so on and so forth. So whenever you use the word book, you immediately know what are the things that the book will have and what you are going to do with the book. Now the type of book will vary. There will be information book, there will be literature, there will be fantasies, so on and so forth, scientific book. So then each object will have its categorization. The objects can be categorized. And when you have those categorization, then it is useful for you to understand how to interact with that. For example, when you are taking up a scientific book, you are essentially going to be working with science, right? So you create that mindset. You sit with your diary, you sit with other things, and then you start learning science. Whenever you are reading on the other hand, whenever you are reading a fantasy or let's say erotic book, you're not really trying to learn anything out of that, but you are trying to stimulate your right side brain with that. So you'd most likely be picking up that book while in bed, covering yourself in blanket. So the genre of the book, horror, fantasy, or science, will let you know how you should interact with the book. Now, even in the science, there will be subcategories. So that's why the object book helps your brain to understand how to deal with the things. Now, the world is quite complex, because if you did not know what is a book, what it may have, your brain wouldn't know what to do and how to interact, how to prepare itself, or how to allocate resources while you are interacting with the book. Now, each of the object will further have its name. Every book has its name. And then the objects can be inherited, of course. You can write a book, you can take the reference of the previous works that's been done in this domain, and so on and so forth. So, reading is the relationship that you have with a book. Essentially, you are creating the relationship with the author of the book. Alright, so there exists a relationship between the author of the book, who himself is an object, and the book, another object, and the reader, another object. Okay, so an object is a thing which is simplification of the complex world, which helps us to understand how to interact with certain things, and that interaction is called the relationship. Now, while reading the book, you may use a marker, you may mark, or you may use a pencil, mark the paragraphs, you may take note, but you are never going to tear apart the pages of the book, right? So there is a rule of that interaction, and the relationship defines those rules. Now, when we talk about the object and the relationship, We have pretty much borrowed the idea of simplification even in the human life. For example, we define father and daughter relationship, mother and son relationship. Now, here is a problem. The problem is humans are beings, not things. Let me repeat again. Humans are beings, not things. Whenever you talk about a relationship, you are essentially talking about the way two things interact. So, when you say mother and son relationship, you are objectifying mother into a thing, son into a thing, and then you are defining the relationship. In the modern world, this nature of relationship is governed by the laws of morality. What a mother should do, what a mother should not do, what a son should do, what a son should not do. So, a natural relationship is now been converted, a natural interaction rather, is now been converted into a relationship governed by morality. So, when you define mother as an object, what should a mother do? Mother should feed her child, her breast milk. Mother should take care of the child, should let the child to sleep, should teach the child initially, and so on and so forth. So there are a set of do's and don'ts that you associate with the mother. You do the same thing with the child. Now the child doesn't understand because it's a being, it's a newborn. It doesn't have the entire world's view. So the mother tells the child what to do, what not to do, and so on and so forth. And then they interact following those relationships. Now the problem with this relationship pattern is that mother tries to become true to the mother object. So mother of the child is a being, and however that being devolves herself, devolution, that is, she shrinks herself into a thing, into a perceivable thing in order to interact with the son. Now we understand what is a thing. Thing is shrinking a complex world into a small perceivable object. Now what is a being? Being is essentially a consciousness. We overuse this word in today's world. Well, let's understand what is consciousness. There are two terms. One is awareness and the second one is consciousness. Awareness is your knowledge about the external world and the way you are interacting with the external world. For example, you are aware that you have to deliver a project in time, which means that you know what to be done, you know what is that interaction. Awareness is, for example, there is a cold and you have to wear a sweater. So you are aware that the temperature outside is cooler, much cooler than the temperature inside your body. That's awareness. What is consciousness? The consciousness is understanding your internal world and the way internal world communicates with the external world or interacts with the external world. Let me repeat. Awareness is knowing how your external being is communicating, interacting with the external world, whereas consciousness is understanding how your inner world is interacting with the external world. Now, what is your inner world? The inner world is essentially the world of memory, emotion, feelings, thoughts, philosophy, psychology, so on and so forth. So I'm not going to go in detail of that. Let me explain you what is consciousness in a very simple way. So for example, if you know that you have a hydrophobia, that is, whenever you go near water, you get afraid, and you know that you'd be behaving in certain way whenever you see a large body of water, that a fear is incited in you. The consciousness is knowing why that fear is coming from, not denying that you are afraid of water, but to know where that fear is coming from. And then acting while being completely conscious that you are afraid of the water. So, consciousness requires you to know yourself significantly well and to know how you are going to interact with the external world. Now, what is external world of the nature? For example, all of us human beings, we have eventually all been evolved from fishes to a small life form that got developed underneath water in the fish, and then we all got evolved from that. So because the as we evolved, the genes started developing on the top of the genes that the fishes have. So almost 70% of the humans have their gene similar to that of zebrafish, which existed something around 400 million back. So we carry a genetic trait from 400 millions. Now, at the fundamental level, it is the genes that is interacting. It is the genes that is programming your behavior. It is the gene that is programming all the physiology, psychology, etc. So now, you are conscious when you know how you are with water. So, for example, how you are interacting with spring. Now, if you go to a tour and watching Niagara Falls, that's not how you are becoming conscious of the springs or the water streams. If you are thirsty and you have to go near such a water body and drink water, then you are understanding how you are interacting with a water stream or water spring, what we call it. So, if you are in the urban setup, chances are you never have gone near such water body to quench your thirst, and therefore you do not know what is that stream essentially is, and what is your physiology, what is the thought that is coming, what is the feelings that is coming when you are going nearer to that. We have been a hunter for most part of the early evolution. So if you are not roaming around in the jungle, not just for a travel or an African safari, but in reality staying in the proximity of a jungle, there is a danger. There are wild animals. There is a fear, extensive fear when the dawn falls. If you do not experience that fear, you do not know the consciousness or your inner world, how it is going to deal with such scenario. We have stayed in the caves for a long period of time. So if you're not staying in the caves, if you're not conscious how your inner world is going to interact. When you put up a fire, stay with few people in the cave in the evening. Now you cannot go to a cave travel because that's a fun, that's a different way of interacting. But when you actually have to live in such caves, then you understand that coldness, the darkness, the sense of insecurity. That's how you become conscious. Alright. Now, because in the urban setup, it's a very constricted world of what the world essentially is. The world is full of ice, desert, rivers, wild animal, darkness, hunting, gathering, traveling long distance, no water, sometimes a lot of flood, famine, green lands being converted into deserts, all such things. The real world is essentially a very, very complicated world. But in the urban setup, you are given a very small world. So in this small world, you have to see that world as the world that is the only form of the world. And that's why every entity is being objectified. So when a child grows up, the child thinks, yeah, whatever I'm seeing, this is the world. So the child doesn't have consciousness. It has not developed the consciousness. Now, one that doesn't develop consciousness by default cannot interact naturally with the world. So that interaction has to be defined. And that's why the children is objectified, the mother is objectified. So the problem is more prominent for females because females are the one who are to become mothers, irrespective of how successful you are. If you are a female, your body invests a significant amount of its resources from your birth till now, hoping that you'd be mother, knowing that you'd be mother one day. Every month you have a menstruation from puberty. Your ovary interacts with brain, exchanges lakhs of messages every day. Vagina, cervix, ovary, guts, brain, kidney, they all have their consciousness, and then there is a complex amount of energy management, complex amount of hormonal management excuse me, that your body has to do. And now when you tell your body that I'm not going to become a mother, which invalidates your brain, ovary and gut to start with, you tell these three that okay, whatever they did for 20 years was very silly because they should know that you would not become a mother. Now when you turn violent against your body, they in turn react in a very, very different way. Okay, so because you are born with a gene which runs from what, 400 million years. So there is a consciousness which is already there within the organs. You are still not aware of that consciousness because you have not gone through the different world. You have not understood the interaction of yours with the actual nature, and therefore you are not still aware of that consciousness. But there is a consciousness. Your kidney knows how to respond when you are near water body. Your kidney knows how to respond when you are thirsty and when you are experiencing a desert environment. Your heart knows and lungs knows how to react when you are in a mountain area where oxygen is less. So for the case of females, what happens is their body completely goes aggressive against them because you are not turning against the consciousness that this organs has, the intelligence that this organs has, and you're telling them that for 20 years whatever pain they have taken, that's for no use because they're not going to be mothers. So that doesn't work. Essentially, therefore, a female's body would always aspire her to become mother because for 400 years the genes are made for that. However, a mother by default is very close to the nature because creation is not an object. Childbearing is a being. You are going to hold a human being in your womb. That's not a thing. You're not going to give birth to a mobile phone. You're not going to give birth to a book. You're going to give birth to a child who cannot be a thing because the child doesn't have any worldview of his, the child is going to born with the basic genes, which are nothing but the consciousness that the genes are developed from years. So the child is born as a being, and then it has to be tamed or shortened into a thing. The problem with this mother-son or mother-child relationship is that the moment mother starts acting like a thing, trying to be true to how a mother should be, a lot of other things, a lot of other behavior, a lot of other consciousness that her organ has is completely gone. And so the mother cannot experience her child. The mother cannot feel her child. She has to act, behave, and that's pretty hard. That is why the relationships don't work. Particularly, any relationship with a female entity doesn't work, because unless and until a female is close to the nature or has experienced nature, she doesn't have consciousness. If she doesn't have consciousness, she develops an awareness. The awareness has to then be supported by an objectification. She has to create some persona to interact with the world. Each of these persona will have certain behavioral aspects. Each of these personas will then have certain thoughts and feelings of its own, but they are constricted versions. And that's the reason when you convert human beings into human things and establish a relationship between the human things, they don't work. The moment a human being starts getting some consciousness that the thing world has turned him or her into is not who he or she is. Anyone who is born will have a consciousness of each organs, eyes, mouth, heart, and then a consciousness of the brain, a subconsciousness, a super consciousness that has to be there, because only when you know that you are alive, that is the biggest consciousness. When you know that you are alive and you can distinguish that sense of being alive, then only you can work for your body, you can keep your brain, you can keep your body free. So what happens is, when you convert humans into things, so you're convenient, and then you say that you have a relationship, you call a guy should have a good relationship with a girl, you are essentially lying without telling that you are objectifying them. And when humans will have the consciousness betraying their awareness, the consciousness will tell, no, you are not a thing, you are a being. They are going to go very aggressive. It's the fundamental of the human life. So to recap again, a relationship is the way two objects interact, following certain rules. Of course, in the coming episodes, we are going to talk about these rules also. An object is a short version of the complex world to help our brain understand how to interact with things. So an object is a thing, for example, a book, which has certain properties and certain behaviors. Because consciousness requires your understanding of the internal world and its interaction with the external world, and because the urban setup is pretty much constricted, the consciousness has been suppressed and everybody is objectified into things. Whenever there is a thing, somebody owns that thing. There is an ownership. Objects cannot by natural definition act of their own. There are things. Somebody has to control those objects. Somebody has to create the objects, destroy the objects, bring other objects for a relationship. And therefore, by default, by objectification, human beings are converted into human things. Up to this is fine. But a woman's body has a significant amount of consciousness. Just ovary, gut, heart and brain, the combined consciousness of a female, it's extremely high. And when that consciousness tells her that, you can't think us dumb, we supported you for 20 years, so that you give us the child because we need that. That moment, she can't handle the world through mere awareness. She cannot objectify herself anymore. This is the basic understanding, and I hope from today you would not make a mistake in calling your interaction with your dad or mom as a relationship, or your interaction with the child as relationship. Humans cannot have relationship. It is just not possible. Only things have relationship. And whenever human beings are converted into human things, somebody is going to control that thing. So by default, a human is being subjugated. So I hope you have understood the basic concept of a relationship and object. Little bit of concept about awareness and consciousness. And I sincerely would believe that this would help you to review your world, life, a little bit better fashion. As we go through different episodes, I'm also going to tell you how to take practical measures to evolve yourself back into a human being and still be part of the larger society. I'm going to tell you how to model your relationships back into interactions, conscious interactions. Hope this video created some value in your life. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. See you in the next episode. This is Rupam again, author of Intimacy Laws for Man. Have a great day. Ta-da.